What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, your soul holds a secret so profound, it would forever change how you live? A secret about the exact moment you will take your final breath. Helena Blavatsky's Shocking Truth About Death isn't just a title. It's a doorway into one of the most guarded spiritual revelations of our time. The founder of the Theosophical Society discovered something that modern science still cannot explain. Your soul has always known when you will die, not your conscious mind, that remains blissfully unaware, protected from this knowledge for reasons beyond our comprehension. But deep within you, in that eternal spark that existed before your first breath and will continue long after your last, there exists a calendar with one date circled in cosmic ink, your departure date. This isn't about fate crushing free will beneath its heel. This is about something far more intricate and beautiful, a collaboration between your eternal self and the universe. Think about those stories we've all heard. The grandmother who suddenly insisted on seeing all her grandchildren the week before her unexpected passing. The husband who put his affairs in order despite having no medical issues, then suffered a sudden heart attack. The friend who resolved all her old conflicts before a diagnosis no one saw coming. Were these coincidences, or were these souls acting on knowledge that never reached their conscious minds? Blavatsky wrote, "Death comes to our spiritual selves ever as a deliverer and friend." What if she meant this literally? What if your soul chose this moment, planned for it, and will recognize it when it arrives? Not with fear, but with recognition. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal what Blavatsky discovered through her studies of ancient wisdom traditions, what Edgar Cayce confirmed through thousands of psychic readings, and what modern hospice workers witness every single day, but rarely speak about publicly. This journey will challenge everything you think you know about life's final transition. It may comfort you, it may disturb you, but it will certainly transform you. If you're already feeling that tingle of recognition, that sense that something profound awaits, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, because this helps me continue bringing content like this to those who are ready to receive it. To understand the shocking truth that Helena Blavatsky uncovered, we must first journey back through time to the ancient mystery schools where death wasn't feared. It was studied. In the temples of Egypt, initiates learned that death was not an ending, but a transformation, a doorway rather than a wall. The Tibetan Book of the Dead described in exquisite detail the soul's journey after physical death, a journey that was prepared for through decades of meditation and spiritual practice. The Greek Eleusinian mysteries offered participants a glimpse beyond the veil, removing the fear of death through direct spiritual experience. What did these diverse traditions share? A profound understanding that consciousness continues beyond the physical form, and that this transition follows patterns and laws as precise as those governing birth. Helena Blavatsky, born in 1831 in what is now Ukraine, spent decades studying these esoteric traditions, traveling through India, Tibet, Egypt, and Greece. She wasn't merely an academic or a theologian, she was a spiritual scientist, testing and verifying ancient claims through her own extraordinary psychic abilities. What she discovered formed the foundation of Theosophy, a spiritual movement that would influence figures from Thomas Edison to Mahatma Gandhi. At the core of Blavatsky's teachings was a radical concept. The soul is not subject to death at all. Instead, it periodically chooses to enter physical form to gain experiences and wisdom, and then chooses when to exit that form once its purpose is fulfilled. This isn't just poetic metaphor. Blavatsky insisted it was literal truth. The soul, what she called the higher self, selects not only the circumstances of birth, but also the timing and manner of death before incarnation begins. This selection isn't arbitrary, but is based on karmic necessity, spiritual evolution, and complex interconnections with other souls. Edgar Cayce, America's most documented psychic, would later confirm these teachings through more than 14,000 trance readings. Without ever having studied Blavatsky's work, Cayce independently described the same process, souls choosing their exit points as carefully as they choose their entry points, often selecting several potential departure windows. This understanding transforms death from something that happens to us against our will to something our eternal self orchestrates with profound purpose. It's not that we consciously want to die, Our personality self naturally clings to physical existence. Rather, our higher self recognizes when the purpose of a particular incarnation has been fulfilled. Consider this. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to fight death with everything they have, while others seem to peacefully accept it when their time comes? Medical professionals have long observed this phenomenon without explanation, but through Blavatsky's lens this becomes clear. Some souls are ready to transition while others still have earthly purposes to fulfill. What we're exploring isn't just ancient philosophy, it's a practical understanding with profound implications for how we live and how we approach our final days. This isn't about removing the grief of loss or dismissing the very real human experience of death. Rather, it's about adding a layer of meaning and purpose to something our culture has stripped of its spiritual significance. As we move forward in this exploration, I invite you to approach this material with an open mind, while still maintaining healthy skepticism. The truth always withstands questioning. I'm curious, where in the United States are you watching this from? Or perhaps you're tuning in from another country altogether? Let me know in the comments below. I'm fascinated by how these universal truths resonate with people from diverse cultural backgrounds, and I'd love to hear your perspective. Now let's delve into the first profound revelation of Blavatsky's discovery, the soul's blueprint. This is where the truly mind-altering aspects of her work begin to unfold. According to Blavatsky, and later confirmed through Edgar Cayce's readings, every soul creates a comprehensive life plan before incarnating into physical form. Imagine standing before a vast cosmic drawing board, working with spiritual guides and teachers to chart the course of your upcoming life. You're selecting the major landmarks of your journey, your parents, significant relationships, key challenges, and yes, potential exit points. These exit points aren't singular or rigid. Rather, they're more like windows of opportunity, carefully placed at intervals throughout your life where departure would align with your soul's highest purpose. Think of them as cosmic transit stations where changing trains is possible, though not mandatory. You can feel this truth in your body as you read these words. There's a resonance that occurs when we encounter something our soul already knows. That slight shiver, that sense of recognition. That's your deeper self acknowledging a truth it has never forgotten. The blueprint includes multiple potential departure times because the soul understands that free will and circumstances can alter the exact trajectory of a life. Perhaps you've set a window at age 40 if certain lessons are learned quickly, another at 65 if more time is needed, and yet another at 85 if your presence serves others for a longer duration. What's truly astonishing is how these exit points often coincide with specific astrological configurations that were present at birth. Blavatsky noted that the natal chart contains not only the script for life, but also the potential timing for death. The soul selects a birth time that aligns with its chosen exit windows, creating a perfect symmetry between entrance and departure. This isn't cold predestination. It's more like planning a cross-country road trip with several possible routes and stops, maintaining flexibility while still having a destination in mind. The soul's wisdom far exceeds the personality's limited perspective, seeing patterns and purposes that remain hidden from our everyday awareness. Consider those inexplicable premonitions people sometimes report before their death or the death of loved ones. The dreams that feel unusually significant. The sudden urge to put affairs in order. The unexpected desire to reconcile with estranged family members. These aren't random psychological phenomena. They're the higher self communicating with the conscious mind as one of these prepared exit points approaches. What's most remarkable is that these exit points often align not just with the individual soul's journey, but with the journeys of others. Your departure may be timed to catalyze another's spiritual awakening, to release someone from an obligation, or to bring several people together who need to heal collective wounds. This is why some deaths, though painful for those left behind, seem to serve a higher purpose that becomes apparent only with time. The widow who finds her life's calling after her husband's passing. The community that creates lasting change after losing one of its members. The family that heals generations of dysfunction while grieving a loved one. The soul's blueprint isn't just about the individual. It's about our interconnection with all other souls. A vast tapestry where each thread affects the entire design. If this perspective is resonating with you, If you're feeling that inner recognition of a truth your soul already knows, please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you find value in exploring these profound spiritual concepts, please share this video with others who might benefit from this understanding. As we expand our understanding of the soul's foreknowledge of death, let's explore something even more fascinating: the subtle yet unmistakable signs that appear as one of these exit points approaches. Months, sometimes even years, before physical death occurs, the soul begins a careful preparation process. This isn't visible to medical instruments or detectable through laboratory tests. It's an energetic withdrawal that happens on multiple levels simultaneously. Blavatsky described this as the silver cord loosening, a gradual untethering of the soul from its physical anchor. Edgar Cayce would later call it the turning inward, a reorientation of consciousness away from external concerns toward internal completion. This preparation manifests in observable ways for those who know what to look for. The person may develop what hospice nurses often call the distant gaze, moments where they seem to be looking at something others cannot see, as if their perception has already begun shifting between worlds. They might speak of deceased relatives visiting them in dreams or even while awake, not as hallucinations, but as genuine encounters as the veil between worlds thins. There's often a marked disinterest in future plans beyond a certain point. Someone who always booked vacations a year in advance suddenly has no interest in planning next summer's trip. A career-focused individual becomes surprisingly detached from long-term professional goals. This isn't depression. It's the soul's knowledge that these futures won't be experienced in this incarnation. Perhaps most telling is what Cayce called life completion behaviors, the unconscious tying up of loose ends, giving away meaningful possessions, making amends with estranged friends or family, creating recordings or writings that serve as final messages, putting financial affairs in perfect order despite no conscious awareness of impending death. One hospice physician documented over 1,000 cases where patients exhibited these behaviors months before any medical diagnosis indicated their time was short. When interviewed, these individuals had no conscious awareness they were preparing for death. They simply felt called to complete these tasks. What's happening is a communication between the higher self, which knows the exit point is approaching, and the conscious mind, which remains unaware. This communication doesn't use words, but rather impulses, feelings, and seemingly random urges that serve a higher purpose. For those with spiritual sensitivity, there's often an observable change in the energy field surrounding the person. Their aura, that electromagnetic field measurable with Kirlian photography, begins to thin in certain areas, particularly around the head and feet, creating what some psychics describe as exit portals for the departing consciousness. These signs aren't meant to create fear, but to allow for conscious completion. When we recognize them in ourselves or others, we can use this precious time to say what needs to be said, to love more fully, to complete our earthly business with awareness rather than being caught unprepared. This knowledge doesn't rob life of its joy. It infuses each moment with greater meaning, each interaction with deeper significance. Knowing that our time is measured doesn't diminish life, it magnifies its preciousness. Now we arrive at the profound turning point in our understanding, the moment where everything you thought you knew about death undergoes a radical transformation. What if death, rather than being a random biological event that happens to us, is actually a sacred threshold that our soul actively chooses to cross? What if, instead of being victims of time and circumstance, we are cosmic choreographers of our final moments? This is the revolutionary insight at the heart of Blavatsky's discoveries, later validated through thousands of Edgar Cayce's psychic readings. Death is not something that happens to you against your will. It is a doorway your soul purposefully walks through when the timing aligns with your highest spiritual evolution. Consider the sharp contrast between these two perspectives. In the conventional view, death is the enemy, a failure of medicine, a triumph of entropy, a random tragedy cutting lives short without meaning or purpose. We fight against it with everything we have, viewing each death as a defeat in an unwinnable war against mortality. In Blavatsky's understanding, death is a graduation, the completion of a soul assignment, the fulfillment of a sacred contract, a perfectly timed transition from one state of being to another. The soul doesn't fear this transition any more than a butterfly fears emerging from its chrysalis. This isn't merely philosophical wordplay. This distinction fundamentally alters how we experience our finite time in physical form. When death is the enemy, life becomes a desperate race against an invisible timer. When death is a chosen threshold, life becomes a meaningful journey with purpose at every step. Perhaps most shocking is Blavatsky's insistence that the soul often sends clear signals to the personality as the chosen exit point approaches. These aren't vague spiritual notions, but documented patterns observed across cultures and throughout history. 3 days before natural death, what Casey called the 3-day window, the soul exists simultaneously in both dimensions. During this time, people often experience a surge of energy, unusual clarity, or meaningful visions. Many hospice workers document patients who seem to improve dramatically just before death, sitting up to have lucid conversations after days of unconsciousness, or expressing a sudden sense of peace and readiness. This isn't the random firing of a dying brain. It's the soul's conscious preparation for its transition, a preparation it has been planning since before birth. What does this mean for you right now? It means that your presence here today isn't random chance. Your soul has chosen to remain in physical form because it still has experiences to gather, wisdom to acquire, love to express, or service to render. Each morning you wake up represents your soul's continued choice to remain incarnate for another day. It also means that when your chosen exit point arrives, whether tomorrow or decades from now, it won't be a failure or a tragedy from your soul's perspective. It will be the perfect timing for your next evolution. If this perspective is opening something within you, if you feel that resonance of truth that goes beyond intellectual understanding, please subscribe to this channel now to continue this journey of spiritual exploration together. Your subscription helps this knowledge reach others who are ready to transcend their fear of death. Let's venture deeper now into territory few spiritual teachers have had the courage to fully explore: the hidden mechanism behind your soul's foreknowledge of death, and why this awareness remains veiled from your conscious mind. Blavatsky discovered something truly extraordinary through her study of ancient mystery schools. She found that the soul doesn't simply know when death will occur, it actively participates in creating those exit points through what she called veiled remembrance. This process works through a remarkable psycho-spiritual mechanism. Your higher self, the eternal aspect of your consciousness that exists beyond time and space, has already experienced all possible versions of your life. From a higher dimensional perspective, all potential pathways exist simultaneously. Your soul has witnessed each possible death you might experience, peaceful or difficult, early or late, alone or surrounded by loved ones. What we experience as linear time is, from the soul's perspective, more like a vast landscape that can be viewed from above. Your higher self has walked each potential path and selected the optimal exit points that serve your spiritual evolution. Here's where it gets truly mind-bending. These exit points are encoded into your subconscious mind before birth through what Casey called cellular memory. Every cell in your body carries not just your genetic code, but also energetic imprints of these potential transition times. This explains why people often have inexplicable knowledge of their approaching death. The body itself remembers what the conscious mind cannot access. This memory remains veiled for profound reasons. If we consciously knew the exact moment of our death, most of us would live in paralyzing fear or reckless abandon as that date approached. The veil of forgetting allows us to fully engage with life's lessons without the distortion that such knowledge would create. However, as one of these exit points approaches, the veil thins. Information begins to seep through from the subconscious to the conscious mind, not as clear knowledge, but as intuitions, dreams, and inexplicable urges to complete unfinished business. The most startling aspect of this process is the soul's ability to either embrace or reject each exit point as it arrives. Near-death experiences, where people clinically die but return to their bodies, often represent moments where the soul approaches an exit point but chooses to continue the incarnation because certain purposes remain unfulfilled. This explains why some people with terminal diagnoses inexplicably recover, while others with minor conditions suddenly die. The medical prognosis is merely measuring biological factors. while the ultimate determination comes from the soul's assessment of its completed purpose. The ancient Egyptians understood this so well that they created an entire science around this process. Training initiates to recognize approaching exit points and make conscious choices about whether to depart or remain. The books of Coming Forth by Day, mistranslated as the Book of the Dead, were actually guides for navigating these transition opportunities with awareness rather than unconscious reaction. This hidden knowledge has been carefully guarded through the centuries, shared only with those ready to transcend their fear of death and embrace the larger cosmic perspective. Today, I'm sharing it with you because our collective evolution requires this wisdom now more than ever. If you're finding this perspective valuable, please hit the like button right now. It helps spread this vital message to others who are seeking deeper understanding about life's greatest mystery. How does understanding the soul's foreknowledge of death transform your everyday life? This isn't merely philosophical speculation, it's practical wisdom with immediate applications. When you truly internalize that your soul knows when you'll die and has designed your life accordingly, ordinary moments take on extraordinary significance. That chance encounter that changed your life's direction, that unexpected opportunity that appeared precisely when you needed it, that narrow escape from danger. None of these were random. They were choreographed by a consciousness that sees the entire journey from beginning to end. This understanding changes how you perceive seemingly negative events. The job loss that felt devastating might actually be your soul's course correction toward an exit point that serves your highest purpose. The relationship that ended painfully might be creating necessary space for completion experiences before your chosen transition time. Many people report an overwhelming sense of peace upon embracing this perspective. The nagging anxiety about death, that background hum of mortality awareness that pervades modern consciousness, often dissolves when death is recognized as a chosen threshold rather than an imposed ending. This isn't abstract theory. Hospice workers regularly witness the profound difference between those who die fighting against death and those who recognize when their soul has chosen to transition. The latter often experience what palliative care professionals call a good death, peaceful, meaningful, and marked by unusual clarity and even joy, despite physical discomfort. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, after studying thousands of dying patients, concluded, "Those who have the strength and the love to sit with a dying patient in the silence that goes beyond words will know that this moment is neither frightening nor painful, but a peaceful cessation of the functioning of the body." What she witnessed was people aligning their conscious awareness with their soul's foreknowledge, recognizing at the deepest level that the timing was right, that nothing was being cut short, that everything necessary had been completed. This doesn't mean we shouldn't use medicine to treat illness or take reasonable precautions for safety. The physical vehicle deserves respect and care. But it does mean we can release the desperate clinging to physical existence that often makes the dying process more difficult. For those grieving loved ones who have passed, this understanding offers profound comfort. Their departure wasn't random tragedy or cruel fate. It was their soul's recognition that its purpose in physical form had been fulfilled. The timing, while painful for those left behind, served the highest evolution of all souls involved. Now you stand at a crossroads. Having glimpsed this profound truth about your soul's foreknowledge of death, you face a fundamental choice that will determine how you experience the remainder of your earthly journey. Will you continue living as if death is a random accident waiting to happen, an enemy to be feared and fought at all costs? Or will you embrace the understanding that your exit point has already been selected with perfect wisdom by the highest aspect of your consciousness? This choice isn't theoretical. It manifests in how you approach each day. Those who recognize the soul's blueprint live differently. They understand that time isn't measured in quantity, but in completion. A life of 20 years can be as complete as one of 90 if the soul's purpose is fulfilled. This perspective challenges our cultural obsession with longevity at any cost. Perhaps the question isn't, how can I live as long as possible, but rather, how can I fulfill my soul's purpose in the time I have? Not, how can I avoid death? But how can I approach my chosen threshold with awareness when that time comes? Living with this consciousness means developing what Blavatsky called death literacy, the ability to recognize the language of the soul as it prepares for transition. This includes acknowledging the whispers of intuition, the significant dreams, the inexplicable urges that may be your higher self communicating important guidance. It means releasing the illusion of control over death while embracing your responsibility for how fully you live. Your soul has chosen when you'll depart, but your conscious self chooses how present you'll be until that moment arrives. Perhaps most challenging, it means viewing your relationships through this lens of temporary physical connection, serving eternal soul purposes. Every significant person in your life is part of your soul contract, playing roles in your development and you in theirs. Some may be with you at your departure, others may not, all according to the higher plan you created together. When you view your remaining time, whether decades or days, as perfectly allocated for completing your soul's purpose, priorities clarify instantly. Petty concerns fall away. Authentic values emerge. The question becomes not, what can I get from life, but what did I come here to give? This is the challenge before you now. Will you continue sleepwalking toward your appointed transition, or will you awaken to conscious participation in your soul's journey? What would change in your life if you fully embraced this understanding? How would your priorities shift? What relationships would you nurture differently? What legacy would you focus on creating? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious about your perspective. Now we arrive at perhaps the most astonishing revelation of all, what Helena Blavatsky and later Edgar Cayce described as the 3-day window before physical death. According to their findings, approximately 72 hours before a natural death occurs, the soul begins its final preparation phase. During this remarkable window, consciousness exists simultaneously in both the physical and non-physical dimensions. This isn't metaphorical. It's a literal expansion of awareness that has been documented across cultures throughout history. During these 3 days, several extraordinary phenomena consistently occur. First is what hospice nurses often call the gathering, the strong urge many dying people feel to assemble loved ones around them. This isn't merely emotional comfort-seeking. The soul is literally gathering the energy of significant relationships as it prepares for transition. Second is the life recognition, distinct from the life review that occurs after death. In these final days, people often experience profound clarity about the meaning and purpose of their life experiences. Suddenly, seemingly random events are recognized as perfectly orchestrated lessons. Long-standing questions find resolution not through new information, but through expanded perspective. Third is what Cayce called the thinning of the veil, increased communication between dimensions. This is when visitations from deceased loved ones most commonly occur, not as hallucinations, but as genuine encounters made possible by the soul's expanded state of consciousness. Most remarkably, during this window, the dying person often knows exactly when transition will occur. They might announce, "I'll be leaving on Thursday morning," and despite stable vital signs, that's precisely when death occurs. This isn't predictive ability. It's recognition of the blueprint they created before birth. Medical professionals who work with the dying have documented thousands of cases where patients with no medical training accurately predicted the timing of their death, often to the exact day or hour. From a purely materialistic perspective, this remains inexplicable. Through Blavatsky's understanding, it makes perfect sense. What's the practical value of knowing about this 3-day window? For those supporting dying loved ones, it allows for conscious participation in one of life's most profound transitions. Rather than being caught in panic or denial when signs appear, you can recognize this sacred time for what it is and create space for meaningful completion. For yourself, this knowledge transforms how you might one day approach your own transition, not with fear of the unknown, but with recognition of a process your soul has undergone countless times before. This understanding doesn't eliminate grief or the pain of separation. It does, however, add a layer of meaning and purpose to what might otherwise seem like senseless loss. Please share this video with anyone who works in hospice or elder care. This knowledge can profoundly transform how we support those in their final days. As our journey together reaches its conclusion, let's integrate what we've explored about your soul's foreknowledge of death into a perspective that transforms not just how you view dying, but how you experience living. Helena Blavatsky discovered, that we exist within what she called the soul's eternal calendar, a cosmic timepiece that measures experience rather than hours, completion rather than years. Your soul didn't just incarnate randomly. It entered physical form at a precise moment when celestial alignment supported its intended lessons, and it will depart at an equally precise moment when its purposes have been fulfilled. This isn't fatalism. It's recognition of a higher order and intelligence to existence than our limited human perspective can fully comprehend. Your soul, existing beyond time, has created this journey with wisdom that your personality self only glimpses in rare moments of clarity. Every meaningful relationship, every significant challenge, every moment of breakthrough or beauty, these aren't random occurrences, but carefully orchestrated experiences leading toward your soul's perfection. Your death, when it comes, won't be a punishment or a failure. It will be graduation day, the moment your soul recognizes that this phase of its eternal journey is complete. Until that day arrives, you have the extraordinary opportunity to live with greater awareness, to align your conscious choices with your soul's higher wisdom, to complete whatever you incarnated to accomplish. Each morning represents your soul's continued choice to remain in physical form because there is still purpose to be fulfilled. What will you do with the time you've been allotted, whether decades more or only days? How will you use this precious vehicle of flesh and bone before your soul chooses to release it? If you've stayed with me throughout this exploration, if something within you has resonated with these profound truths, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share in the comments what insight has most deeply touched you. Your engagement helps extend this wisdom to others who are ready to transcend their fear of death and embrace the soul's eternal perspective. Remember, you are not a body having occasional spiritual experiences. You are an eternal soul having a temporary human experience, one that includes a perfectly timed departure that serves your highest evolution.